Welcome, David. First in, best dressed. How you doing today? Just waiting for some more people to get in here. I chose this time specifically once again. Oh, it's so good to look at the waves. It's so good to be here once again. I couldn't stay away. So why did I decide to do this live stream at this particular time? This is very interesting, what we're seeing. Yes, it's been quite a busy day for you and for me. Yeah. Definitely a very interesting day indeed. End of the month. End of the month is here, and end of months usually means something in the markets. End of quarters of the year, end of years, basically mid-year, end of year, usually interesting times definitely in the markets. So just wait for a few more to join before we get this on the road. And then I'll explain what we're seeing here at the moment. Welcome, Kani. Good to see you. Welcome. Welcome indeed. Hope it's nice where you are. It's pretty cold here in Melbourne. It's actually freezing in the morning. So that's winter time for you here. So I hope you're above the equator. Awesome. So the thing with XLM, actually, the thing with the coins in general lately is that we're in a bear market rally, okay? So to me, it's irrelevant which coin you're looking at right now, because we're not going to go for a massive, massive bull run. So to me, it's just about keeping up to date with one coin for now. Other coins will come next month after June ends. More things will develop shortly, but we're still in a bear market rally across all the coins. Even if this thing expands to the upside, there's still a lot of headwinds in front of us. So is that 32 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit? We use Celsius here. I don't know if that's cold or not. It depends where you are. So basically, to me, it's not about analyzing every coin. understanding every coin, spreading my analysis all over the place. Welcome, chemistry. Celsius. Oh, you're doing pretty good there, mate. Doing pretty good. Yeah. So, with what's going to happen with the US dollar soon, I think nothing will survive that. I think that most people tend to extrapolate into the future. So even if we do move higher from here, it's that lovely E wave that always comes back to make you think twice about what's going on, right? And it happens at large degrees and small degrees. That's a good question, Carney. Look, how does anybody know that that's true? I mean, I've heard a few things like soon they may make it illegal or just take it away from the exchanges so you can't buy it everywhere, not just America. Here in Australia, you can still buy it. So to me, it's a case of I wouldn't let the news affect you too much at this point. It's the pattern in XRP that makes me think that it's just going to lag behind everything else for the time being because of this. There's a lot of people who are not very confident on the future of XRP at this point, but the pattern tells me that there's a good reason for that, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to go up once it does correct lower, although it may go higher. So I'm going to be bringing up some more updates when, in the first week of July, second week, just moving forward on XRP. I'm going to introduce XDC and XLM, of course, and I'm going to be doing some more around the ISO stuff because that's pretty interesting. The algo, all that stuff, it just seems to be on people's mind at the moment. So, but at the same time, it's not critical at this point, right? And the reason why I'm just taking my time is because I can see what's going to happen to the US dollar soon. And that's not going to be good for anything. Nothing's going to be able to deal with what's coming in the US dollar. Okay. And that's purely based on AriasWave. What the US dollar's preparing to do will basically cause markets to crash globally, like a GFC event, possibly worse, especially because of the current amount of debt, the current prices, the current mania, the current bubble, whatever you want to call it, the current state of the world. I think that this is going to cause a huge shock. And I just think that they don't even need to basically stop allowing people to buy XRP. I think that they could easily just buy at the lows when everybody's selling, right? It's the classic bait and switch. And I think that's going to happen basically when the US dollar bottoms, which is why I use it religiously as a guide to what's happening with the global markets, cryptos, and commodities. Precious metals, obviously. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? So how bad will it be? I don't know. but it's going to be something that cryptos has never seen before, right? Now, even though cryptos went up, like Bitcoin went up, well, it didn't really go up. It corrected during any time that the US dollar was going higher. Bitcoin, because obviously Bitcoin's been around a lot longer. So if you look at the history of Bitcoin and you look at the history of the US dollar during the same period of time, whenever the US dollar went up, Bitcoin either went down or it corrected sideways, right? But Bitcoin has never seen a GFC, right? It has never seen it, right? Because it was born around the same time. So it was meaningless back then, right? So even though, yes, the US dollar did go up, during, 2000, between 2012, 2015, whatever, it's still a corrective pattern, right? Even though it was expanding to the upside, it was a corrective pattern. But at the same time, we weren't seeing what we are seeing in the world today. So a significant move up, sharper move up in the US dollar today would probably cause a lot more damage than what it did back in the GFC. And I think that would affect cryptos significantly, which is why we are seeing these patterns unfold now the way they are unfolding. So it's a matter of paying attention to the waves because they're going to tell us everything. So welcome, Jose. So basically, with your comment about the bankers, that is absolutely true, because the problem is that because of what's happening in the world right now, and you can refer to Milton Friedman on hyperinflation or inflation in general, or even like Mike Maloney, and there's a few others, but there's certain things that I take from everybody, and I use the waves to understand it a bit better. So when it comes to printing money, yes, they can print all they want, but it's not going to make a difference to what's coming, right? Which is going to be hyperinflation, right? So at this point in time, because we're in a bear market, right? Even though things are going up, things can definitely come back down again, right? To me, there's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. I would not be surprised if we saw GFC 2.0, which is obviously what I'm thinking, right? So at the end of the day, welcome, FS Truth. Thank you. So what I'm trying to say is that the money that's being printed, it's not, the money velocity is going down, right? So that means that people are panicking, they're afraid, they're hoarding cash, right? They're saving because they're worried about the future. And this is typically what happens before hyperinflation, is that a lot of money is pumped into the system, but it doesn't have the effect that it should have, right? Because of the current state of the economy and the real economy, not the pumped up markets that you see on the charts, right? But the real economy is actually in free fall, right? It's in free fall. This thing should be cratering right now. The whole thing should be cratering right now. But the reason why it's not is because they are jacking it up. They are printing, they are expanding the money supply during a time where people are not spending. So where's that money going? Like I said to you, a lot of people are paying down debt A lot of people are hoarding cash, putting money under the mattress, whatever you want to call it. It's like a repeat of Weimar Germany, right? Back in the early 1900s. So the point I'm trying to make is there will come a time when the market will stop correcting. Everything will return to normal. Well, the damage would have already been done. And that money will then come out from under the mattress, from wherever it was hiding, and it would flood the market. And the money and velocity will start to increase, and that'll cause hyperinflation, which will drive every asset and all prices higher beyond anything you could comprehend right now, which is what I believe will be a massive wave 3 up in global markets, asset prices, basically everything, including commodities, food, everyday living. It's not going to be nice, and it's going to explain why things are going to happen the way they are going to happen, because I can only tell you the waves, but I also try to look for the explanation. And in this case, it's going to be hyperinflation. But all the Fed can do is say is that it's transitory inflation. And now we're hearing that it's going to be transitory hyperinflation. So what does that mean exactly? It just means that they can't control the market because they do not have control. All they can do is print. So exactly. So that's why house prices are going up. And well, the world is not really a nice place to live in right now. So really, what does it matter, right? But when the world does become a nice place to live in, and all this money is eventually going to come out of hiding, it's going to be worse than what you're seeing now, right? It's actually going to be so massively a wave 3 up in everything. We're just preparing for that now. Okay, we're not even there yet. Okay, so I like talking about it. It's good to answer these questions. Welcome, Ekolai. Good to see you. I like to talk about these things because they matter and they fit into the waves. And that's basically to do with the velocity of money, right? So we're in a bear market, okay? Since 2017, global markets have been in a bear market, right? So we're in a wave D up in the Dow Jones, right? So that's a really crazy zigzag going on there that is like insane, right? And it's going to pop. It's the same wave that happened before the GFC. I say this time and time again, right? And once it pops, basically, it'll turn down big, and then eventually something will happen where it bottoms, and then things will just go straight through the roof because the money velocity will increase and it'll cause hyperinflation. It's not a good thing, but you can take advantage of it. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's why we do the waves. So it doesn't matter if we have a $1 trillion note, at least we'll have many $1 trillion notes instead of just one, because it won't be able to buy you much anyway. So who cares? So on that, particular note, it's interesting to look at the patterns. And so I want to switch to what's going on now in the XLM chart. So I'll do that. Okay. So what has been happening since yesterday when I spoke about this move, right? It started going up and then it came back down. So that's the first point of reference here, is that I basically ended the live chat near the top. Now, was that on purpose? No, but everything has to correct, right? So it must correct. Everything must correct. It's just the way that it works. So yes, we may be looking for a move up, but does everything go up in a straight line? No. Do we have levels that can tell us if we're wrong? Yes. I have my classic magenta line. I have my stop. This is my critical support level, the red line down the bottom, where wave E ended. Supposedly, if that's really a wave E. So how are we going to know for sure if that's a wave E? Well, number one, you can't break the red line. That's obvious. But there's pieces of evidence here to suggest that this is just a correction in a move that's going higher. So if we pull out the labels, right, and I'm probably going to make a mess of this. I always do the first time. Here we go. All right. So now if we're looking at the start of wave 3 up, okay, so we pull out the green, wave 1, and then basically call this sharp wave 2. Okay, there. So basically what I'm saying is this was a 5-wave move, and this is wave 2, right? It's as simple as that. Why do I believe that? Well, I can go into detail in a moment, but let's see what people have to say. How can I put this? With response to your housing market not in a bubble, that's true, but it all comes back to bidding up prices due to low interest rates, right? People can get cheap money. Okay, that's basically deflationary, right? So we're in deflation during this bear market. We've been in deflation for a long time, but they keep printing money to make it look like we're not in deflation. No, it's a good point. And this is something that Milton Friedman talks about, right? I believe he's one of the greatest economists that ever lived. If you have a look at, understand his videos on money and inflation, he basically talks about the money printing is there to disguise any problem that's going on in the economy, including deflation. And deflation is basically, to me, it's like a reaction to too much inflation. It's a correction of too much inflation. So how do you remedy that without letting the whole system collapse? Is that you just keep printing more money, right? Because if you don't, then the whole system does collapse. So when you say it's not a bubble, well, in the short term, it probably is. In the long term, it's just a side effect of the money printing, right? So just say, for example, right, we go up to 40,000 in the Dow Jones, and the Dow Jones crashes 60%, right? And that's interest rates start to rise. Okay. Apart from the fact that the Fed might come in and buy it all anyway, that's still going to cause issues with the middle class, right? So at the end of the day, does it really matter if it's a bubble or not? When at the end of the day, the Fed is trying to own everything, buy everything, wipe out the middle class. And I think you know where I'm going with this, right? their agendas and their narratives and everything. They're basically the Great Reset narrative. Don't know if you've seen that. It's just part of a bigger play going on, right? And this pattern started in 2007, right? The move up in the US dollar, this pattern started in 2007. And it's just a gameplay, right? It's like a chess move. So once they crash everything again, which is going to happen because it's human behavior to do what they're doing, right? This is a bear market in currencies. It's a bear market at the moment it's a bear market in the stock market, but in currencies it's a bear market for a long time now, since the 80s, right? And there's a reason for that. So it's a currency war, in my opinion, right? But the results are felt in everyday living. And then you got to just look at their agendas and narratives. And then you can see why when we're not going to be in a bear market for that long in cryptos or the stock market. But there is a currencies war, and they're using it to pull certain levers at the right time to perform certain actions or crises at the right time in order to achieve their goal, which if you look on the World Economic Forum, that's probably just a distraction compared to what they actually want to do. So there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, we don't want to cloud our judgment too much with that stuff, because it's good to know. It's good to know that there is something going on, but it gives you the upper hand to at least understand what's going on, and then you can use the waves to prepare yourself for whatever's coming. Right? That's the whole point of this whole thing. Otherwise, if you just want to buy and hold, you'll be 80 by the time you make a decent profit, because markets will swing wildly, and most likely you'll get caught up in that volatility and panic sell when you shouldn't be panic selling. So in my analysis of XLM, I said that we're looking for 5 waves up. Okay. So therefore, I said wave 2 ended here. We can't see price go below the red line. So what's this pattern here? How is that a wave 2? Now, that's a good question if you ask that. So the way I see this, right, it's like this. We have a wave 1 and 2 here. Okay. Now, if that was going to be a zigzag, then wave C is probably too short, but that's just a clue, right? So it's too short, doesn't mean it can't happen. But then you got to look at this pattern here. What comes afterwards, right? So for this, we need to look at the 5-minute chart. Okay, so we may even have to go closer to understand this pattern, right? So right here at the small degree, right? For starters, you have a zigzag here, right? So you have your first wave A here. That's a zigzag, right? Then you have a wave B here. Then you have a wave C here. Then you have a wave D here. And now, what do you think this one is? What comes after D? So this is interesting, because it's come back to, okay, so before I start talking about that, this doesn't look like it's the start of a move down, okay? Even though this initial move was, not that impulsive, still went up a bit, looks okay, could be the start of wave 3, but it didn't follow through, and that's fine because nothing goes up in a straight line. So you look at the resulting pattern, and a big clue will be is if this doesn't even make a new low below the end of wave C, it also came back to the breakout point to confirm wave 2 was over, right? The magenta line, okay? So in my opinion, it's just retesting a breakout of the magenta line, which it has done once, rejected, D, come back again, E, RSI, weak. This can't be a C because it's not long enough. And the pattern that came after it is not a 5-wave move. So therefore, this can't be like it can't be a zigzag on its own for 2 reasons. One, C is not long enough. And B, it doesn't look like the start of a 5-wave move. It's actually, the correction is pointing the wrong direction, right? So that's it. That's basically it. There's nothing else to say about that, right? And that's the beauty of the waves, is that you can use them in a way where it actually says, hey, look, this doesn't fit with the waves, so it's not going to happen, right? Now, that's how I do it, right? That's how I put ideas out, because I know the waves. Not to mention that we've come back and hit a 0.618 retracement since that red line. Yeah, that's a pretty important level if you ask me. Not that I use the fibs a lot, but it did come back around a certain level where you build a confluence, right? It's confluence. So not only that, you've got 3 things going on here. Okay, so number 1, this is a AriasWave channeling technique. You take the channel from A, the bottom of A, and then you put the channel to the end of E, and then you put the top of the channel to the start of wave 1, the end of wave 1, sorry. So now you've got the channel, it's come back to the bottom of that channel, okay? So you've got the channel, bottom of the channel, the break of the start of E, a 0.618 retracement, what looks like a wave 2, right? Total correction, basically almost over. Probably going to be a small wave E here. I don't expect this wave E to go much lower. And then what ends up being confirmation from this point, just from this little move here, is a break of that high, right? So we have another magenta line. Let's make it a bit brighter. Don't know what yeah, there. Just a bit brighter. Okay. And then once we break that high there, we're going up, right? Now, if this is a wave 1, then whatever comes next will be wave 3, and it will be longer than wave 1 down here, right? Because how can you have a wave 1 that's half the size of wave 1 down here and then make a 5-wave move up? That's going to be way too long to be a zigzag, right? So it's like a process of elimination and logical thinking. So therefore, my conclusion is that this is just a wave 2, using a multitude of factors and a whole bunch of thought processes over that help you determine the outcome, right? So now what am I looking for? I'm just sitting back waiting for a bounce. So let's look for one, right? Now, Mind you, the E wave did look like it finished. That point is slightly lower. That does look like potentially the end of wave E. So therefore, that, to me, it's, if you go even closer, you can see that it's actually interesting, because that never made a new low, or did it? No, it never made a new low on this chart anyway. So what's that about, right? Is that because, truncation does exist and I was wrong the whole time? Well, I suppose if we look at another chart, we can determine if that was true or not, because chart data is not always the most reliable, especially not the STR USDT. Oh my God, don't even try to look at a 1 minute chart on that chart. Jesus, forget about it. All right. Maybe let's try, I don't know, Coinbase. Nope, it didn't make a new low either. Okay, so what does that make me think? Well, maybe this was, maybe this was one. Maybe it already bottomed out back here, right? Like I said, what's the confirmation? A break of the highs. Okay. A break of that high will confirm. When you go to this level, it's really hard to read the waves. Okay. It's really super hard because you're seeing all sorts of, you can't even see proper corrections at this level. I mean, you try go to the 15-second chart. On this particular chart, it doesn't really look that clear. So yeah, so I mean, the whole point is that this is wave 2 and it's come back to retest the break of the, the previous confirmation level. And we've got like a multitude of different factors here at play. We didn't make a new low and started moving up. So to me, it's almost telling me now that wave E ended down here. And then we're seeing like 1, 2, right? Now, if that's the case, then this is a mini wave E right there, right? So technically we break here as well is also confirmation of this move over, especially if it breaks above that. So this is just small degree stuff. I don't really get too caught up with that, but I just like to make a point of it because yeah, on some charts you get really good data and you can actually go really low degree, especially like on, like the euro, the USD, and just many different cross pairs of currencies. In cryptos, it's not always easy to get crystal clear data at 15-second chart. I don't know. If you want to go that deep, you can, but you don't have to. It takes a lot of practice. You got to understand the bigger picture first. So if we're going to call that an E, then we've got to put it there. No new low was made. Can barely even call that a double bottom, to be honest. But we need to see confirmation. Welcome, Johnny P. How you doing? Good to see you. All right, so when you start to use this much detail in your analysis, that's right, Johnny P, you thought wrong. Right? So at the end of the day, it comes down to, number one, we need to get serious now. We need to go higher from here. Okay. We cannot break below the red line. It's just, to me, I don't see that being possible at all. Not even if it was a zigzag, because the pattern, it's just not looking right. So there you have it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. What's the deal with Bitcoin? Well. Came back to the point, basically 50% in what is a interesting pattern. Let's have a look closer. And if that's a wave 2, that's a pretty sharp correction. That's very sharp. That's very sharp indeed. And it's oversold and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's so we definitely need to see a break above that high for Bitcoin in order to confirm higher price action. Because I mean, that's just way too, it's way too tacky, right? Because that move there was the strongest move, and you can't say that was a 3, or was that part of a 3? Can't be part of a 3. So it's just very odd. It must be the start of either a really strong move up, and I think it's because of it broke the trend line and it just got rejected, right? And well, the fact that it broke the trend line to me is actually a good sign anyway, regardless of anything. So to me, it's just a bit of rejection, maybe. Yeah, just a bit of rejection. Because, especially because, right, and this is something I wanted to talk about as well. Well, they usually drop until they don't. Luca, how you doing? Welcome back. All right. So if we're going to try and formulate an idea for lower prices, if we're going to play devil's advocate, what would we do? Okay. So number one, first thing I would do if I was going to play devil's advocate was I would start off with a clean chart. So just get rid of all that. And then basically put a fib down there. All right. So if we've just seen wave 1, right, down for wave C, and it's not a weak wave C, and it's just a leading diagonal, right? We'd have to see a bounce to at least 50%, right? I would say at least 50%. Now, depending on how that gets there, you'd have to see some kind of zigzag pattern to the upside that at least touch 50 to 0.618%. Okay, I don't think you're just going to see a 5-wave move and then just some tiny little bounce, and then that's wave 2. That's way too small to be corrective, in my opinion. Unless somebody else has any other fancy ideas. Just yeah. To me, like I said to you, this is a bear market rally. So, you know, you gotta go back in time to see how funky patterns can look when they begin, right? I mean, look down here on Bitcoin. Okay, so if this is a 5-wave move down for the end of a correction, I mean, look how that started off. Look how that started off. It looked like a zigzag with a 5-wave move down. I mean, look at that. You know, look at how these moves start, right? Look how that started off. You know, it's pretty funky looking, right? You could almost think that that was a zigzag too. Oh, we had a 5-wave move down, and that looks like a zigzag. Look at that. If you don't use the internal structure of the waves, you might have thought that was just a 1 down here and then a 2. But then what happened? But that's why I don't use just one chart. I don't use one chart anymore. I use several. Use the US dollar. You know, this was the top of the US dollar, right? And the US dollar, mind you, at this point, when was it? Here. Right, so the US dollar topped, was it around yeah, so I think when did that move start? The end of 2018. 2000. Yeah. Yeah, so that move started around the end of 2018. It went down, and that's what Bitcoin did during that time, right? Even though in the US dollar, the move was a D wave, right? In the US dollar, during this period of time, the US dollar was creating a really expanded, right, zigzag pattern, right? This is, I'm just going to use this example, right? It was a very expanded zigzag pattern, okay? Well, not too expanded, but it was just really messy, and it went for a long time, okay? So Bitcoin did this during that time. It went up and down during that time, and that was the top of the US dollar. So you can see quite clearly that it has a similar pattern, except the top of the US dollar didn't really make a new bottom here, did it? It's just interesting to note that it happened that way on Bitcoin during that time, okay? And if you look at XLM during that time, right, I say that it made a zigzag, right? Maybe it's not the exact kind of zigzag that happened in the US dollar, right? but I still call it a zigzag. It's an A, right? And this one did bottom out when the US dollar topped. Okay, so what does that mean? Scratch the head. What could that possibly mean? Well, if you look at the XLM BTC chart, right, you can see, right, I'll take you to that now. The XLM BTC chart. Oh, check it out. Check it out. Okay, check it out. If we are potentially seeing a 1-2, 1-2, right, in XLM against BTC, which is what this chart suggests, then that means that what happened during that time in XLM to make it weaker and Bitcoin was a bit stronger, that's not going to keep happening in the future, right? That's not going to keep happening. So what does that mean? That's a very interesting question. What does that mean, right? I think that it means that XLM will outperform Bitcoin, yes, but it just also means that I don't think that moves in the US dollar are going to completely annihilate XLM, right? So this is a piece of information that could be useful in the future, right? Especially since we're seeing a turn in the strength of XLM against BTC, and we already know that BTC is pretty strong against the US dollar. I think that potentially the XLM could break the highs, right? Who knows how it will do it, and then come back and retest the highs during what could be considered, a crisis, a really big shock, right? So how will we know that? Well, we have to wait, obviously. We have to wait to see how big this move gets. Okay, so it's not something that we should just dive straight in and assume. To me, it's more, it's like it's baked in the cake already, right? But the more we see XLM expand above the highs, right, the more we see this next move go up and up and up, expanding to the upside, the more the chances are that the drop might just come back to retest $1 or something, or whatever, 92 cents, right? So we are in the midst of getting closer to the top of this particular correction, the last move up in a correction. So therefore, cup and handle pattern possible, break of the high, retest of the high, move higher after that. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about, right? So right now I'm thinking, okay, well, if this is a bottom, which it looks like it is, how high can this go? And the first wave is going to be the first clue as to how high this goes, which means this doesn't have much time to prove itself, right? So we're on a tight schedule here, right? We're looking at the Dow Jones. It's going to soon begin completing its pattern in what looks like it's going to be 3 waves up left, ABC, but not ABC for XLM, but it's going to be the completions of internal corrective patterns and then the completion of the final D wave which is the whole pattern since March 2020, right? So this is very interesting at the moment. It's very interesting times, because if Bitcoin is going to not crash that badly, that means we need to see an expanded correction to the upside right now over the next 6 months, over the next few months to get started. And then over the next 6 months, hopefully 6 months to complete it. But I don't know. How long did it take for this A wave to occur? Well, it took about 800 days. Okay. How long did it take for the B wave to occur? Okay, so that took about 430 days. Okay, so that's a bit shorter, which is interesting. This indicates to me that the move down was weak, even though it was deep. The move up was strong, and it took less time. The move down looks weak, which is in line with the whole strength of the market. If this is a potential wave 3 to the upside, in line. We need to see a D wave that is sharp to the upside, and probably going to be less time taken than 430 days that it took for the B wave to occur. It might even take half that time. You get me? And that's the kind of thing that we need to see to help us understand what kind of correction we're going to see here. And if this is a wave 3, like it could be potentially, especially after this correction ends, then why would it correct lower? Why would an expanded correction go below, back down here, back down here? Why? Why would it do that? There's no reason for it. Okay. So when you think about it like that, I think it's about making wise decisions now, and then also making wise decisions along the way in order to capture some profits in a corrective pattern, right? And then make more profits on another move up. You get me? That's what I'm trying to say. That's the whole idea behind all of my analysis, is that we are in a very expanded market. Cryptos is not like fiat, right? Cryptos is a reaction to fiat and all this money printing. So why would it correct so bad? In fact, I think it will expand and then correct, not in the same way, not directly in proportion to what the US dollar is going to do, because of how badly they're printing money and they're causing these types of assets to rise in value in the first place. Why did Bitcoin rise so much since inception in the first place? It's inflation. It's the same thing. It's the same thing for everything. All right. So I suppose it comes back down to, is this a legit bubble? Is it not? Well, for cryptos, it could be just an expanded correction, and you can still make money on every move that it makes, right? You can make money on the first move up, right? Take some profits, wait for a pullback, make money on the next move up, take profits, wait for a pullback, and then make money on the next move up. That's it. So that's the plan. Use your logic, use your common sense, use all charts, but just use them as a guide. Don't use them as gospel, and, don't always think bearish thoughts for an economy where everything is about expansion, right? We are in the midst of a massive expansion, and hyperinflation is coming. So just be careful with bearish thoughts. That's why I created the bullish series. Okay, the bullish series is important for understanding all of this stuff, because it spells out a different picture. And even though things look gloomy in the world today, I don't believe it at all. I don't believe in narratives and agendas. I believe in actions. Actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than mainstream media, in my opinion. So to me, it's a matter of just paying attention to the waves, knowing intricately how they work, so then you can make your own decisions and compare your notes with mine. And by the way, I'm very thankful to you guys who have joined over the last month. Super happy with the interest in AriasWave. Today's the last day for lifetime membership. Okay, June 30. It's June 30, I think, everywhere now in the world. So the last day for lifetime membership, $4.99 USD. After that, it's going to be yearly $9.99 USD. Have to say it now, just because you can't say I didn't tell you before. I've said it on the last few streams, so you can't say later I didn't say it before. I've said it a few times. But for y'all that got in, good on you, because we're going to be riding this together all the way. And there's going to be a lot of detailed stuff being put in the portal over the coming months, because this is just the beginning of this move up that's going to be enormous. But there's a lot of people who like to buy at the top and get smashed and sell at the bottom. So we need to stop that. We need to stop people doing that. I know a few people that have done that, and I know a few people who are currently in that situation. Welcome, Kelly. Good to see you. So basically, in a nutshell, it's all about the pullbacks, right? Because the pullbacks in these markets can be substantial at the higher degrees, right? At the higher degrees. Now, you know, you can scale it, you can do it however you want, but the point is that you need to be confident with your with your trading. Even if you don't use margin, that's fine, because these moves, percentage wise, they're going to be pretty substantial. Pullbacks will be volatile as well. As you know, cryptos are volatile. If you stick to what you know, maybe try and pick a coin that you want to follow, pick a few, but don't go too crazy with analyzing too many charts, because you'll only confuse yourself. I learned that early on. It's very easy to get confused using multiple charts. You have to be really in tune with the waves to do that properly, especially if you're going to be selling at short-term tops and then rebuying back in after a sizable pullback, 50% minimum, and then getting back in, and then just slowly add to your stack that way. That's how I believe it's going to work with cryptos moving forward. I don't think there's going to be much pressure downward, because we're in an uptrend. Okay, this is a long-term uptrend. So hopefully you guys understand a little bit of that. For the new members, you guys can use this to your advantage, because you have all the info. I've paid attention closely to, I've spoken with a lot of members and non-members on how they perceive my analysis. A lot of them, it makes sense, but usually it's the members that say that. To the non-members, it's usually like they're trying to figure it out, and it's just like, we don't have time for that. We don't have time to figure things out too much. We need to learn it properly, because if you want to actually make money on those moves that are coming and take off the profits, you need to be confident when you do that. Otherwise, you're just going to be riding out these waves where you could have been making money. If you're a hodler, keep hodling. I have no problem with hodlers because we know what's going on long term, but you know, you can turn 1 into 2. You can turn 10 into 20. You know, you can turn, 50 into 100 in terms of your stack. Along the way, it adds up, right? And then eventually, when it's too late, it'll just explode, and it'll just be too hard to do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that the whole way. It's just going to be too difficult. But if you don't have much now, the way to do it is to basically use what you have, learn the waves, and then buy and sell basically at the right time. And that's why I get so intricate with the waves. That's why I go so deep, because if you don't, then you can't do it later. You can't do it later. It's not going to be the same because you won't have the knowledge. You'll just be following me. And then I have to tell you that I am not a financial advisor. Just use this as a guide, because I just want you guys to learn it. So the ISO 200 stuff, I'm going to be covering that more in the coming months. I'm going to be diving deep. I don't know if you missed when I said that. All of those coins that you guys have mentioned, I've been doing a bit of reading, and I'm going to be getting into that more. I'm just waiting for June 30 to end because it's making me really busy with stuff, as you could imagine, signups, admin stuff. That's why my trading view ideas have just come to a bit of a halt in the last couple of weeks. But I will be covering a lot of those coins: Algo, XDC, XRP, XLM, and a few others, and all that stuff, and the whole meaning. What I'm going to delve into that stuff. I think there's something there. Too many people have mentioned it to me for me to ignore it. So I'm just going to research it using AriasWave, of course, and also do the fundamental research as well. So it's just along the way, it'll be good to diversify. There's going to be different times to rebuy, and you can choose to rebuy whatever you want as long as the price is right at the time, right? So definitely going to be a lot of opportunities ahead. So we're just getting started, like I said, just getting started. Yeah. Algo, yeah, all those ones. I'm gonna check them all out. I've already got them in mind. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's very interesting indeed. Right, and the thing is, it's just going to be about taking profits just in case we do see a big dip on that E wave. Okay, so that's why we can't know for sure how badly that's going to impact us. So it might present massive buying opportunity if you get out at the right time when that happens, or it might be a small dip, right? But we're not going to know until it happens, right? Either way, you don't want to be in the market when the US dollar is shooting for the moon, right? During that small period of time. You don't want to be in the market at that point, right? You just don't. I mean, you saw what happened recently when the US dollar made made a small move up, right? You saw what happened recently to the cryptos during that same period of time is when we had this whole move to the downside here, right? So you really just don't want to be, you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of a move, which is why I'm talking to you about what I'm telling you, right? Because it's going to mean something in the future. And like I said, I reward the early adopters. But along the way, yeah, there's going to be some interesting things going on. So that's basically it. So right now, we need to see that bounce. Yeah. Yeah, I keep hearing about flipping the switch stuff, but interesting times, all I can say. So that's basically going to be it for now. Pretty much covered everything on that one there. So if you guys tune in over the next month, you'll see more stuff, I suppose. And yeah, just yeah, keep watching this. I bet you will anyway, without me saying that. But just very interesting how this whole pattern is unfolding and how other things are unfolding in the the US dollar and stuff like that. Who knows how this will expand to the upside? Who knows, right? And just one more thing I want to add, like, I mean, you think about the US dollar and what it's done, right? Just think about this for a sec. The US dollar has fallen a little bit, right? Since the March 2020 high in the US dollar, right? So if we go to the DXY, okay, we go to the DXY, right? Or just say, just go to the euro, which is the inverse, right? So what? This thing moved up 17%, 16%, 16%, right? So, roughly in the US dollar, that's 16% down, roughly, right? So what's the difference? XLM went up 2,500% during that same time. You really got to, you just got to wonder what is going on with money printing when the US dollar moves that much and XLM moves that much in response to that. I mean, that's pretty crazy, right? You got to admit, that's pretty crazy stuff going on there. And if this thing continues to get worse, which I think it will, then you can just imagine what's coming next if the US dollar is actually not having much impact moving forward against cryptos. It's actually going to have a lessening effect. I mean, anything is possible, right? But I'm just trying to give you some perspective there on how much percentage difference there is on these movements, right? It is going to happen soon. It is, but we need to, we haven't seen the US dollar bottom yet, right? We haven't seen it happen yet. It has not happened yet. Okay. We still need to see wave 5, and wave 5 will be a zigzag. All right. So let's have a quick look internals of US dollar. What's it look like it's doing now? Let's have a quick look at internals. So it's come back pretty close to the top. So it's definitely getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So if we're going to look at this as some kind of wave 4 correction, if it makes a new high, then, well, how could we look at it? So I'd be saying potentially this is A, B, C, D, E, and we're just really just trying to carve out a new high, barely trying to carve out a new high with really, with a really weak move here. So to me, this is barely carving out a new high. So potentially gonna touch that, and it's just gonna fall down in wave 5. Welcome, Tim. How you doing? Good to see you. Tim Baroners. Always good to see you guys back. So US dollar wise, sure, we might make a new high. Maybe we didn't see the top of this, because if we would have seen the top, this wouldn't be going and doing this, right? This would be already this way down, but because it's carving out this pattern here, it looks like an ending diagonal, right? I think this thing's barely trying to make a new high before it keeps falling, right? So what is that? That's the last move of wave 4. Okay. That's a 3, 3, 5, 3, 5 pattern there. That's a sharp D. So to give you an idea of sometimes how sharp D waves can be, that cannot be anything else, right? Never made a new low, can't be a 5-wave move. You can see a 5-wave move ending there. Within it, you can see a corrective pattern within. If you look within, sharp D, sharp Ds do happen. We could see one of those in XLM soon. But as for this thing, this is a wave 4. So it might barely make a new high, but look at strength. Oh, strength is gone. Look at that. Strength is gone completely out of this thing. It's barely going to touch that, I reckon. Barely make a new high, and it's done. And that's on the 4-hour chart. 1-hour chart, it's already done, right? You can see wave 3 was the sharpest in the middle there. That's the E wave, right? That's an E wave. So you can see with the RSI, wave 3 was the strongest in the middle. So now we're just basically carving out that last 5, wave 5 of the E, barely. And then I think that's when the pressure will come off the cryptos, okay? I think that's when the pressure will come off XLM. But even though that's happening, you have to understand that the strength behind that move is weak. So I don't think it's going to have much impact on XLM or BTC. I think that it's already had the bulk of its move happen. So from here, we should just be patient. We're already seeing bullish pattern. I'm seeing the end of a correction for USD. I've done some Dow Jones analysis recently on TradingView, which is a bit in depth. So you should check that one out if you haven't seen it. But it's all leading in the same direction, and it's gonna have some ramifications, but positive ones in the short term for XLM and cryptos in general, most cryptos. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that's sort of just keeping this move on pause for a bit, is that US dollar is just completing its move. But even so, you see higher lows, right? Since that bottom down there, right? You see higher lows there. Higher low, higher low, higher low, potentially another higher low there. And that's not even using waves. That's just using simple higher lows as an analysis. I mean, the US dollar already had its go at cryptos, and it showed its teeth a little bit. So that's why we just got to be a little bit careful down the track once that last move ends in the US dollar, because it's going to have a pretty big move up. So if this happened to cryptos during that small move, then potentially there might be some headwinds ahead, as I've mentioned. So, oh yeah, the XLM is definitely bullish on the RSI. There's no doubt about that one bit. If you go to the daily chart, let's remove all the labels for a second and reposition, right? There's a couple of things already mentioned. So number one, we went oversold and bounced, and what can I say? It's bullish, all right. So but yeah, that's your daily dose of XLM for today. Really technical stuff here. I don't just talk about fundamental stuff because it's not always fun. I suppose I'm a tech guy, so I look at all the technical stuff. That's what I do. It's my background. So I bring the ideas from all angles, every possible angle, right down to the smallest degree. So hope you guys enjoyed this particular catch up, this update. And if you haven't joined the program, lifetime access, lifetime membership ends on the 30th. That's today. And then it's yearly memberships at $9.99 after that. Because you know what? I got my hands full as it is. And, it's supply and demand after all. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hope you enjoyed this live stream, and have a good morning, lunch, afternoon, night. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.